Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. This is episode number 64, and this is the first and the only podcast dedicated to all things night vision, thermal imaging, scope reviews, hog hunting, coyote hunting. If it has anything to do with nighttime hunting, we're going to talk about it on this show. And by we, I mean myself, Jason, owner of Outdoor Legacy, and my good buddy, Hans from the Hans Texas YouTube channel. What's going on, Hans?
Back for another week, and straight off of our annual guys trip weekend. Got back yesterday. So to answer your question, Jason, everything's good. Good to be back again this week. So we had our annual guys trip, and I'm going to tell you, we had a good time. Last year we went to Chicago. You remember that? We talked about it on the podcast, and I think we talked about the smelly cabs riding around.
Now, to be fair, folks, he was there at a Texas country music festival, not there just to experience the nightlife of the inner city Chicago.
No, so we've got a group of buddies that every year we get together, and it is all about country music. And we travel around, we go to festivals, it's all centered around music. So typically we've gone to Chicago because they've got a big Texas country music, and that's what we're into. We are what most people would consider country music snobs, and we know what we like, and we like to go where we can hear the best. So every year, Chicago would have a great Texas country music festival up there. Well, every year the music's kind of got a little bit less quality. I would say less Texas country music and more of just pop kind of country music. So this year we thought, hey, you know what? We're just going to go straight to Nashville. So the 7 of us hopped on planes. Most of us are from Ben Wheeler, Tyler area. Got a couple guys from Austin area that meet us out here. They're from East Texas, but they're living in Austin now. But they met us out there, and we survived. Nobody, nobody come back in a wheelchair or
nobody went to jail.
No, but I tell you what. So us being country music snobs, we love Texas country, and if you like hearing Texas country music, I hope I don't offend anybody.
Oh boy!
But if you like hearing Texas country music, Nashville's probably not the spot for you. Let's just say, if you love Garth Brooks songs and any type of 90s country you can think of. Well, and I need to be fair. On Broadway, it is tourist capital, and they're from people from all over the country, and when they think of country music, they think Friends in Low Places, the generic country songs.
A few iconic songs from the last 25, 30 years.
Yeah, and hey, back in the 90s, man, we loved it. But so
and I like 90s country, but those isn't the best of 90s.
No, so if you ask for a Texas country music song, you're probably the best that you're going to get, which is a good thing. And Jason, you're a big fan of Pat Green. You're going to get a Pat Green fan song.
They know Pat, man. I'm impressed.
Yeah, but their knowledge of Texas country, if you request a Texas country song for somebody on stage, is not going to be very deep as far as what they can play. But so we were at this place, bar on Broadway. Now at night we hung out mostly off Broadway, but during the day when it was less crowded, we were on Broadway, and we sat at this little bar right there on the Strip for about 4 hours. And I tell you what, these musicians that go out and do it in these bands, I don't know how they do it. They sit on stage for 4 hours, and they work on tips, and it is one song after another. But there were 7 of us sitting there, and every few songs, somebody from the band will get up and walk around and collect money. I mean, they walk around with a big bucket.
Oh, wow.
And they'll go up. It's like almost like being at church when they're passing the tray around, except this person's in front of you shaking it, And I tell you what, we were there for 4 hours, 7 guys. I'll tell you the band, because it was a good band. Ricky Lee Tanner, and they had a guest. SJ was the guest person that was singing with them. Now, So he was good, and he had a really good voice and all that. But I leaned over to my buddy after about 4 hours of being there, and I said, you know, the amount of money that we put in that bucket over the last 4 hours, you pick the most popular country music person going right now, we could have bought front row tickets and we could have rented a helicopter and had been airlifted to this venue, dropped off, and picked up and taken back home. And for what we've dropped in that bucket the last 4 hours.
Y'all are good tippers then. Good gracious.
Oh, man. You know, because you feel bad they come by. I think my buddy put $100 in the bucket not to hear another Garth Brooks song. So, no, it was an awesome time. Great group of guys. I don't know if my body can handle it another year, but you know, it's we survived.
You're getting old. You're getting old.
It is, man. You know, sometimes you just kind of outgrow that stuff, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I know you're glad to be back in the great state of Texas.
I am. So this show, I want to talk a little bit and kind of tease a little bit because we've got some important updates on the Sightmark Wraith. Jason, we've got a very important topic that we want to talk about, an update on the Pulsar Thermion XM30, as well as we got an article that we're going to talk about here in a little bit that's talking a little bit about land access and people being able to hog hunt in Texas specifically, and some frustration that people are having, and it's kind of centered into this article that we're going to talk about. But right now, we're going to get the updates on the race, Jason. And also
right now we're going to have an update from this is a friendly sponsor of our show. This is the very first. Can we
clarify this story before we get into what happened?
Okay, so this is not really a sponsor of the show. I'm just saying that. All right, one of my great customers, Mark, he's a super guy, and he owns a place that it's a barbecue place. He's bought a bunch of scopes and stuff from us. Good guy. He sent some shirts and some caps to Hans and I. So a couple episodes ago, Hans threw on all the garb, the T-shirt, the cap, whatever. And as Mark says, I dressed him up. So I dressed up Hans in his Halloween costume. And so we wanted to thank Mark. And so we called it Sweetman's Barbecue. And it's actually Sweatman's. I got the cap. I got my cap on right here. Sweatman's Barbecue. And
before the show, I was wearing it. I wanted to clarify with Jason. Okay, is it Sweetman's or Sweatman's? I remember asking you about it, and you're like, "No, man, I think it's Sweetman's." So I mean, I think that
I can probably take a little bit of the blame for that. But I talked to Mark actually today. We were talking about, he was actually, ordering a Thermion, and I was talking to him and I said, look, this is all Hans's fault. And he goes, oh, I agree. There's no question. So here's the deal. No. If you are in Holly Hill, South Carolina, you need to go check out Sweatman's Barbecue. This is the place to check out. Like I said, here's the cap. Hans and I've got the shirts and the cap to prove it. Mark's a super guy, a huge hog and coyote hunter. I talked to him, and I know tonight he is out hunting some cornfields that they had. The farmer has already cut for some silage, and he's out there trying to kill some hogs, and that's what we wish we were doing, but instead we are in here recording a podcast going to talk about some hogs. So
don't go to Sweetman's Barbecue. Their barbecue's nasty. Go to Sweatman's
Terrible.
Barbecue.
Go to Sweatman's, Holly Hill, South Carolina. All right, tell them that the Late Night Vision show sent you.
Yeah, okay. Exactly right.
All right, let's get into some more news, and this is just typical. If we say something and give an update, especially a timeline, I guarantee you before that podcast airs, something's going to change. And so that's just normally the way it is. And so last week, I mentioned the Sightmark Wraiths. I'm not going to get into them again. Everybody knows what they are. Digital night vision scope, super popular. And we were looking at possibly a shipment coming at the end of this month, even into August. Since then, we do have information. The Wraiths are in the United States. They are in Texas. They're at Sightmark's facility. They came in very late last week, and they're currently going through their rigorous quality control checks. They take a certain percentage of the scopes, take them off, or take them out of the box. They run them through recoil machines. They test them. They just, give them the once over and make sure that it all falls within their normal allowable standards of what's good and what's bad. And, if there's any problems, they start noticing things, they'll start pulling out more. So anyway, it's just what most manufacturers do. Well, back up. Most good manufacturers. I know some who don't do this, but Sightmark is known for this, is they want to make sure there's not issues before they send something out. So that's what they're doing right now. If all goes well, those things could be on dealer shelves, a few days within this podcast being released. Who knows? It could be even another week. I think last time the first shipment came in, they had those things for over 2 weeks. So anything can happen. If you hear this podcast, don't go running and call me or your dealer and be like, are they here? They're going to be here when they get here, and we'll all be calling you and letting you know, but they should be here very soon. So that's good news. And as we said last week, there will be monthly shipments coming in now for the rest of the year if all goes well. August, September, October, November, they just should start rolling in. So, again, we hope to see that availability coming soon. And you can still pre-order them on our website if you're looking for one. But we've got some more information that has come up about the Pulsar Thermion XM30. Now, this is something that we're going to give you all the information that Hans and I have, and you can put it in a thimble. that could probably be said about a lot of things that Hans and I know. Put it all in a thimble. But here's the deal. So when the Thermions were first announced at SHOT Show, we had a sit down with Jeff Murray, VP of Sales at Pulsar. We did that. It was on a podcast, did an interview with him, and at the time, Pulsar was saying that all of the Thermions were going to have a focusable objective lens, including the base model, the XM30, which is going to be about a 3-power for $2,799, $2,799. Come to find out, it now appears that scope is going to have a fixed focus. It will not have a focusable objective. That news has kind of really just come out in the last few days since the last podcast. There's been some updated images that have come out online from Pulsar in a few places on their website that show that without a focus ring. I spoke with Pulsar contacts who were actually overseas at the factory meeting with Pulsar. I guess a week before last. They just got back to the U.S. last week, and it does sound like that's the confirmation. Now, everybody wants to know why. Don't have an answer. Everybody wants to know, exactly how is this going to affect the unit. Don't have the answer. We can generally speak to that, though. Go ahead.
At this point, we just got that information. We're sharing it with everybody, all the listeners and viewers. Obviously, if you're in the market, if you've already pre-ordered one of these, if you're in the market for one of these, definitely this is an important thing to know. But Jason, why is this so important? This fixed focus, what does it mean for somebody that's looking at buying this scope?
Yeah, what it basically means is this. We have other examples. We have the Pulsar Core RXQ30V. It is a fixed focus scope. We have the FLIR Thermosight Pro PTS233. It's a fixed focus scope. We had the Pulsar Trail XQ30, now discontinued. It was a fixed focus scope. And basically what it does is this. It's not that when you look through it, everything is blurry. The scope is focused to infinity. What it is that you can't get the sharp, crisp, clear image normally at the longer distances that you would if you could reach up there and just slightly focus that lens. And you just it's not, again, I don't know how to explain it. It's not that it's blurry. It's just you notice it when you get out there at a couple hundred yards that, 100, 150, 200 further. I wish I could just focus a little. So I would say that it brings down the identification range a little bit, and it affects every scope differently. What is exactly going to look like, image quality, again, we don't know. This scope is not produced yet. We will find out when we get our hands on them. Pulsar USA clearly said, look, we're going to get these things to you ASAP as soon as we can get demos. We know that there's a lot of pre-orders for these, and people are going to want to know. So I do want to speak to that real quick. If you are on the Outdoor Legacy pre-order list for an XM30, I am started on Friday when I found out for sure, got all the confirmation, started calling people, and I'm working down that list. So I will be calling you if you're on that list. And so just stick tight. And all I'm doing is I want to give a personal phone call to my customers, let them know, and see what they want to do. Now, so far, the general consensus is, well, nobody can tell me what it's going to be like. Leave me on the list. Let's wait till we see a demo, and let's go from there. Now, one thing before we go on, this is not like the end of the world. It's not something. I just want to be clear. I do believe it's going to impact image quality. How much? I don't know. It's not 50% or anything like that. I do think it's going to be a little bit less than it would be if it was a focusable objective. I am not willing to speculate on a scope that, as far as I know, doesn't even exist in anybody's hands. Maybe it's overseas. I don't know. I haven't seen it anywhere, haven't heard anything about it. And it is not expected in the U.S. anytime soon. So I just want to say I've said all that I know, and I'm not gonna speculate until we get a unit in our hands, or somebody that we know and trust, somebody that Hans and I trust gets one in their hands and we can see it. And the last thing, and I'll let you jump in, is the timeline. Everybody wants to know the timeline. These units, from the very beginning, they said we're going to be one of the last to ship, and they were saying probably August. It is a possibility that this unit might not come until September or October. Could it show up in August? Absolutely. But what I was told is, do not expect to see it in August. If it comes, super. We're all glad to see it early, but I would say realistically, let's just shoot for September, October. And if you're in a hurry and you think you're going to want something before then I would be calling and, talking to your dealer, to me, whoever you've got a pre-order list if you're waiting on one, and maybe just talk out your options. And that's something that maybe Hans and I need to do right now, is talk about the options a little bit.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things I was going to mention. So Jason obviously is right. We have not taken a look at this. We don't know what the big effect of this is going to be. You and I have spent a lot of time with the XM38, which is the step above. Does have an focusable objective, and it's higher magnification, 4 power versus what they're saying is going to be 3.3. But the only speculation that Jason is basing his experience on is his experience with other scopes that have a non-focusable objective. So we really, like you said, doesn't know. But so I've got a friend that was on the list for the Thermion XM30. So what if, I've talked to him, he said, you know what, I'm spending good money. I want to have something that I can focus, a good, crisp, objective lens picture. What are his options? What can he go to somewhere in somewhat of a close proximity of price from that XM30 Thermion?
Yeah, right now, and this is, again, I don't want to take up the whole show. We've already taken up over half of it talking about this, so I'm going to try to rush this a little bit because we got a big topic following this. There's not a lot of options in the 20, once you get above the PTS 233 at $21.99. So from $22 to $3,300, there's not a lot of options. In that $2,000 range, your options are really limited to very, very little. And I can say this: your options are nothing that Hans or I can recommend today below $32.99 and above the $21.99. I know there are a few scopes in there from some other manufacturers that I just, no, don't do it. That's the best that I can say right now without being ugly. So no, there's not. And I think in my opinion, you either go down to something like the 233 or the RXQ30V in that $2,000 range, or you go up. And when you go up, you have the option of still the Pulsar Trail XQ38. They're still available for now. Will be throughout the fall. The Trail XQ38 is $32.99. It is a 2.1 power base magnification. For the exact same price, you can get the Thermion XM30, a 4 power. Again, it's $32.99. You know, you can go on up and go to the XQ50 Trail for $37.99, and you just start going up, obviously.
Yeah.
But your closest option is going to be $500 more. You got two scopes from Pulsar in the $32.99 range. Now, a lot of people will listen to this and go, well, you're just talking about Pulsar. Well, FLIR's next stop is $37.95. That's the 536. So, again, without just having a whole other discussion on this, I say if you're not in a hurry, don't do anything. Stay where you're at. Wait. See what this scope is. Let's see how it turns out. It may be well worth the $27.99, the cost savings of going on, up to an XQ38 Trail or an XM38 Thermion. So for right now, I say hang tight till we know more. If you just know for a fact, man, I got to have a scope in the next 45 days, then I would definitely start hunting. I mean, you're gonna have to go to something else because I'll say that. From what I've been told, we should not expect to see it soon. Not probably in the next month or so.
So you need to stay tuned to the Late Night Vision show because we'll be talking all about all the Thermions, but the Thermion XM30 when it comes out, because we want to we're interested to know if the image suffers because of it. It may not. We may be concerned for nothing, but we're definitely going to test it out. We're going to show you all the stuff about it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to give you our honest opinion on that. So
Murphy's Law just proves that everything I said is going to be wrong. It's going to have a focusable objective, and it's going to come out tomorrow.
Exactly.
After all that, that's what's going to happen. That's fine. I'll be happy.
Yeah. So I would please invite y'all to go subscribe to us on YouTube. That we play all of our video podcasts on there, so you can see Jason and I on video. As always, you can find the Late Night Vision show on the internet at thelatenightvisionshow.com, where you can go and see and listen to all of our past episodes. So please go subscribe to us on Instagram and also with Facebook. Jason at Outdoor Legacy Gear, the same. You can contact him if you're interested in purchasing any night vision or thermal scope or optic. You can call him at 877-350-1818. You can always find all of his stuff on outdoorlegacygear.com. And you can find me on YouTube at Hans ETX, that's Hans ETX, and also on Instagram at the same thing. So, getting into this article. Now, I will say this. I've been around Jason for a while now, and a man of very even keel, does not get lit up about too many things. But my goodness, this article sent Jason's head into a spin.
I thought we said we were going to be diplomatic.
I didn't say it was a good or bad spin. He may have been in a spin because he loved it. But this is an article from a very popular magazine that you'll find just about at any sporting goods store or whatever. But it's the Texas Fish and Game magazine. A recent article came out. We're going to take some excerpts from it, some quotes. But really, it's talking about, Jason, people, there being a hog problem and people being able to get access, and not just, free access, but affordable access, and being able to go out and hunt hogs is basically the shorter gist of it. But run us down and tell us why you hate this article so much. No, I'm just joking.
Gosh, this guy's killing me. Okay, so the name of this article, and we'll put a link to it, is called Statewide Hog Sanctuaries. It says hog hunting is banned or limited in millions of acres in the state and federal land in Texas. No wonder we have a hog problem. I do take issue with some of the things that the article says. We are really running out of time on the show, so we're not going to be able to get into everything that I would like to. I think that the author's perspective is actually a commonly held perspective. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's out of line in with a lot of the popular thinking. I think that that maybe some of the listeners of this show would agree with him. I know and I'm saying all this, I'm going to get into what he thinks. I see this very common, mentioned on Facebook, Instagram, a lot of the hunting forums, and it's basically this, especially in Texas now, okay? We can talk about other states, but we're talking about Texas here. It's that y'all have this big hog problem, and everybody complains about it, but nobody wants me to come hunt hogs without charging me an arm and a leg. And that's kind of the gist of it. And then this article, and then a lot of other people get into the ability to hunt hogs on federal and state land in Texas. And I don't know. That's we don't have time to get into all that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole nother topic that is discussed in this article. But
let me state this again, just to reiterate what you said. Jason and I both understand the viewpoint of the author on this article. I think it was an article that probably mimics a lot of what hunters out there that are frustrated, because there's a lot of, with the popularity of hog hunting out there, it's exploding. People wanting to come from out of state to hog hunt. I get emails and calls all the time about it, coming out and hunting with me. The sport has grown so much. The problem is, with Texas being, a very large percentage private land holders as far as, compared to, national parks or any other, public hunting areas. And there's just not a lot of places that, people can go and hunt and have free access. And he does make some good points. I do feel like, though, read some of your quotes that you got, because I think it really highlights the sentiment of not just him, but some of the people he interviewed for the article.
Sure. All right. So one of the comments here, this is someone who is from Ohio made this comment, and this is a direct quote from the article from this gentleman from Ohio. And he said, I saw a program about how hogs were such a menace in Texas, and then started looking around for a place to hunt. My assumption is that people would allow you to come hunt hogs to help wipe them out. Boy, was I wrong. I have always known Texas was a pay-to-hunt state, but I figure with hogs, the farmers and ranchers would be glad for anyone to come kill them. The cheapest hunts I found were $500, and they went up to $2,000. That told me the problem must not be as bad as they're reporting.
Sounds like I need to raise my price.
I didn't know you had a price. Well, I would take issue with this right here. And I mean, I'm going to, again, I see that type of sentiment, and I want to come at this a couple different ways. Hans, jump in, interrupt anytime. Number one, that gentleman brought up a true point. Texas is a pay-to-hunt state. I understand in a lot of the Midwest and the North, it's not that way. It's still knock on doors and you get to go hunting. But for deer hunting, bird hunting, that sort of thing, for much of Texas, I know there's going to be exceptions to every rule. For 50, 60 years or longer, we have been a pay-to-hunt state. You lease land and you go hunt. You pay a farmer, a landowner, a timber company, somebody, and you go hunt that property for whatever it is, the animals that you want to hunt. A lot of times it is just leasing land. Sometimes it's a season-specific lease. Maybe it's dove season. Maybe it's turkey season. It's deer season. Whatever it is, you go, you pay them, and you have unlimited access to hunt those animals on that time. Other times that you get a year-round lease, and you can hunt pretty much anything that's legal anytime. Most of it's deer hunting. And depending on what part of the state you're in, it's varying prices. It's not generally cheap anymore. And that's a whole nother debate for a whole nother day. But Texas is a pay-to-hunt state. And like it, love it, doesn't matter. It's the way it's been. It's the way it's going to be. And so hog hunting isn't really any different. And this is where Hans and I talked about this a lot. Basically, I understand the sentiment of, well, y'all are all complaining about the problem, and I want to come down there and help you, and then you want to charge me or not let me come for free, or then say, okay, but you got to pay me. Well, Hans and I think we come at as as landowners and as our family owning land, we come from that different perspective, and I understand there's two definite sides to it, but listen, I've got an armadillo problem. and it's tearing up my yard and my wife's flower beds. But I'm not about to invite somebody that I don't know to come out with an AR-15 at 2 o'clock in the morning and shoot those armadillos out of my flower bed. Okay. And my wife's mad at them, but she's not gonna, we're not going to do it. Okay. So when we talk about, when you frame it like that, you go, well, okay, maybe my wife's not going to let me do that, but I don't want to shoot in your flower bed. I want to shoot in your pasture. And, you know, I understand that, but I'm not saying that I won't let Hans come. I won't let my nephew come. I won't let my best friend come. But I'm not comfortable letting somebody that I don't know come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the quotes, and I think it's from the same gentleman in the article, but the quote goes, "People have the right to do what they want with their land. However, we hear about hog destruction, and then see almost no one allowing free access to hog hunt. In fact, I would say there's almost no one allowing affordable access." So I think it goes along the same line of you and I live in very rural areas. We have a lot of friends in our areas that have land, or our family has land that we sometimes have access to. Rarely do I have access to a place where I just go by myself.
Right.
And, as much as I'm out doing it, if I'm going to somebody else's land, I'm with them,
they're a friend or an acquaintance or a relative. Yeah. I mean,
I think, or we're hunting on our own places, our own family land. And it is, I think, with the thought of, well, farmers and ranchers should just let us come and hunt because there's a problem. Yes, but going along the same line that Jason said, nobody, I don't care how much money they have, there's probably nobody coming on our land with a rifle with us not knowing them. Even the people that lease land from our family to hunt on, we know them. They are from our community. We know them. They lease land, from our family to hunt on, to deer hunt on. And, we know them, we know their family and everything, never a stranger. So the concern, like Jason said, of somebody running around your land, and the problem, I think what it goes back to, and what I hear the most often from landowners, it is the liability of now these days. Unfortunately, we are in a time where lawsuits are very easy to come, and for a lot of wide variety of different things. But the liability of allowing somebody to come on your land with a rifle, and them getting hurt, them hurting somebody else, them tripping over a rock and suing you, that's the big concern that people have, that I talk to, that they don't want people that they don't know coming on, because they feel like it opens them up to lawsuits. And I'm going to tell you, if you're a hunter and you say, well, you know what, I'll sign a liability waiver and all that, trust me, y'all, we've researched it with lawyers. Those liability waivers are nice to have, but it ain't solid and it ain't bulletproof, meaning they can still sue you even though somebody's promising to sign a liability waiver. It's nice to have, but ultimately at the end of the day, it doesn't protect you. So, then you're talking about landowners having to carry liability insurance so people can come on and hunt on their land. Well, yeah. So there's a lot of concern about that.
Well, there is. And listen, so again, I get it. I understand. You hear about this big problem. It's all over the news. We're all complaining about it as landowners and the destruction and whatever. But at the same time, I mean, even if you take the liability out, you just say, I'm going to let a stranger that I don't know, maybe from another city or another state, come and they're going to hunt on my property. I don't have time to take them. I don't have time to go out there and guide somebody. I'm not an outfitter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to say, here's the gates. Don't let them out. Now, don't shoot my cows. Yeah. Don't shoot my neighbor's cows. Well, don't do any of these. What? Go ahead. What?
Well, not just livestock, which is a very important thing. As we all know, living out in the country, unless you've been on that property and you've scouted it and the people that you've talked to them and had good conversations, you could be shooting in the direction of a house and you not even know it. Just
Sure.
Because that house isn't on a county road doesn't mean that there's not a house
back in the woods. Yeah.
On the other side of a
Exactly.
tree line.
Exactly.
You know, before I hunt anywhere, the first thing I'm doing, I'm talking to the landowner. I'm looking on Google Earth. I'm asking them which directions can I shoot and which direction can I not shoot. And, you know, that's a big concern is people around that area that have houses that are tucked back in the woods that you would never know was there unless you knew it or saw them or what have you. But
Well,
you
yeah,
just can't get out there and shoot in any direction you want.
And I would say this. I know that there's people listening to this. And they're saying, okay, I get all that. But magically, somehow, if I pay you $500, you forget about all that and it becomes okay. So it's really about greed and it's about money. Well, I would say not greed necessarily. I mean, I guess it could be in some people's cases. But I would say, yeah, it is about money because it's about this. It's about the fact that I don't know where you're at in Texas. I mean, Texas is obviously a huge state, and land prices go for all different amounts all over. But where we're at, it's $3,000 to $5,000 an acre, and that's kind of a minimum. It can be a lot more than that.
Yeah, I think up here it's about 5 to 10 up here.
Yeah, so it's very expensive.
Very expensive.
The taxes are expensive. The upkeep, yeah, we've still got these hogs. We're still out there cleaning up damage. We're still tilling, and we're still cleaning, dragging, replanting seed. I just planted $1,000 worth of Bermuda grass overseeded. We're spending money. So it comes down to, yeah, money does talk. I don't want to paint your house. I don't like painting. I don't like painting my own house. But if you offer me enough money, eventually I'm going to take off and I'm going to go paint your house. It might be $30,000, but there comes some point that you go, you know what? I guess I can let somebody come hunt my place. You know, I mean, for some farmers, and maybe that's $500, maybe it's $2,000. So I guess I would just say and I do understand the sentiment, but my advice, so somebody says, you know, well, at the end of the day, what do you do? I think that if you're not willing to pay and go on a guided type hunt, the other alternative isn't any better probably for you, but it's to come down here and lease land. And I know in my area, you can lease land for about $15 an acre. And, you know, so let's just say you get a 500 acre place, which to be clear, 500 acres, you know, even if there's a lot of hogs on it, you can't go out there every single night and shoot hogs, okay? You start blasting all over and you're not going to see hogs for a while. So that's $7,500 for a year-round lease. You can hunt deer, you can hunt hogs, anything basically that's legal year-round. Most places, landowner's going to have some maximum amount of people. He's going to allow on 500 acres. I would say normally it's going to be probably, you know, 3 to 8 people. So you're going to be looking at spending somewhere around, you know, $800 to $1,200-$1,500 a person to hunt that property. That's not cheap either, but you got year-round access as many times as you want to come. I just don't think that we can expect people who own something that has a value of, oftentimes, depending on, again, where the land is, how much they own, it could be worth several $100,000 to even several $1 million, and we just can't expect them to allow a complete stranger to come with an AR-15 out there with a 30-round mag at night and a thermal scope that they don't know from Adam and come start shooting. To me, it just seems crazy, and I don't know anybody that would think that's a good idea. And again, we're not talking about a guided hunt. I don't have time to go guide people. I mean, Hans doesn't really either. I mean, it's just, that's a whole different deal. And if I'm going to do that, well, I'll just shoot them myself, or then we get back to a pay to play. So it's tough. I get it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And this article also kind of delves into public land and kind of the hunting restrictions and that, some of the things that we didn't really mention.
It does. There's a lot of that in there.
So, but, you know, this is basically, it's saying the article is saying we have created hog sanctuaries by the fact that there's such limited limited availability for people to hunt private land and public land. But I'm going to let you know, in the author, these farmers and ranchers are letting people hunt their land and they're shooting hogs. It's probably just people they know. I mean, they may charge people that they don't know. They may have a guiding service to take people out because, we're not taking somebody out or just letting them go. We're going to be with them. they're letting somebody hunt that land. Somebody's shooting hogs on that land. They're probably doing it for free. But at the same time, if they got somebody call up that they don't know and they want to make a few extra dollars to help, subsidize some of these expenses, shoot, all power to them. I mean, in the article, to the author's credit, it says it is their land. They have the ability and the right to do what they want to do. But the tone of the article, it seemed that the author was not happy with the fact that there was just a lot of limited access for him or the readers or whoever he's writing the article about to be able to go hunt. I'm
going to say this, and I'm going to try to be careful. I'm not accusing the author of this. I'm going to talk about this in some of the things that I've read online in, like I said, these hunting forums or Facebook groups or whatever. And sometimes it really chaps me. And this is kind of where Hans said I got fired up. Okay, folks, we need to be very careful as hunters and as conservatives, which I'm going to just go out on a limb and say everybody that listens to this show is some form of a conservative, whether you consider yourself a Republican, a libertarian, a constitutional conservative, whatever title. I'd
say they're all 2A supporters.
That's right. That's right. So the point that I'm making is we need to be careful that we don't fall into this modern liberal mindset of entitlement. You have something that I want and I don't have it and it's not fair, so I should get it. And I'm not accusing the author of this article. I'm not accusing anybody in particular. I'm making a comment on things that I have seen hunters, 2A supporters, probably card-carrying Republicans say, and I've seen it in writing more than once, a lot, and it is, in my opinion, it's an entitlement issue, and we have to be very, very careful. And I know that's going to not sit well with a lot of people, and I don't say that as sitting up on any kind of high horse. Listen, I mean, we grew up as a kid leasing land. I mean, we leased and hunted all over places, all over East Texas. I mean, my dad and I and my brother, and we went up in northwest Oklahoma, and we hunted some land for free. But every time it was a family member or a distant relative or a friend of the family or somebody, we were up there quail, pheasant, duck hunting, and then over the years we, obviously owned a lot of our own land. But the point I'm making is that we just have to be careful that we don't fall into this, entitlement, liberal mindset of it's not fair and we need to do something about it. Because that's not the American way.
Yeah, I'm glad that if the point of this article was to spark debate and conversation, I thought it did a good job doing that. It's something that needed to be talked about and something that needed to be brought up because there definitely are two different sides that somebody would fall on this article. There's a lot of people that are going to end up on both sides and agreeing with the different sides. But
yeah, and I was going to say, my very last thing I was going to say is I do think we didn't even touch it. The federal and state lands, I think some of the rules are fairly permissive. The author disagreed and thought they were too restrictive. Look, it's the federal and state government. I don't know why we would expect them to do it right. I mean, I don't know why we should expect them to manage that land in a way that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we start talking about the way that the feds and the state manage a lot of things, we'd be here all month. So I don't know why hunting land, and to be clear, I call that hunting land. Many people would say there should be no hunting on it at all anyway. So we're probably in this day and age lucky that we can even walk out there with a gun.
So if you'd like to go hunting for free, give Jason a call. He would love to take you out hunting anytime you want to go. No, I'm joking. He's too busy. He doesn't even hardly he gets to hunt some by himself, but he's out.
Not as much.
Not as much as he'd like to. I hunt.
I'm always testing the scope. I've always got two scopes, one on each eye, testing them.
He has to do all the hard scientific work, and I just go out and get to go hunt and
that's true.
And shoot hogs and coyotes. So I got I drew the long stick on that deal. But so thank y'all for joining us again this week. This has been episode 64. So coming up very soon, we're going to have Thermion XP50 talk here in the next few weeks. We're going to be talking about that. Also, we've got a very exciting guest. I think we're ready. We can go ahead and announce it.
Can we announce it yet? Are you sure?
Let's go ahead and tease it.
Sure.
If they've stuck around with us for this long, they deserve to hear.
That's true.
We have Mr. Byron South from Convergent Hunting. He is a genius when it comes to calling coyotes, any type of predators. As you know, he does to have the Convergent bullet caller and the Sidewinder caller. He's all big into the calls and the caller, electronic callers. Those are awesome machines, and it's something that Jason at Outdoor Legacy Gear sells on his website. I use it. I love it. But he's going to be on to talk a little bit about some coyote
hunting. Yeah, he's going to talk about coyote hunting.
He's talking about coyote hunting. He's going to be talking about calling all kinds of predators, the strategies, the tips. I'm going to have my notepad out. I'm going to be taking notes. But if you want to learn how to be a better coyote hunter, this gentleman knows what you need to know. He does seminars, and he's very well known for this. Lucky enough to have him out here in the East Texas area. He lives not too far down the road from me. But we're going to have him on the show very, very soon. So please stay tuned for that. I'm tripping over. We've talked a long time. But, hey, check us out next week, next Thursday. We're going to have another episode. Thank you all for joining us again this week. Stay safe in the fields. And for Jason, I'm going to say goodbye and keep making them bacon pancakes.